What is up, everybody? It's Rob and Donald. It's Nerdin' Out Sports, and we are joined by a very special guest, Alex from Big Blue in the Bronx, from the Boys in the Big Apple podcast. We got 2/3 of that podcast right here. And of course, he's one half of the Twin Bill podcast on NYY News with his brother, Luca, the other twin who roots for the green team. But today, we're talking Big Blue training camp. We're back here talking football. It's been too long. Alex, I'm going to give you the floor first because I know you've been at a lot of practices and you were at the scrimmage the other day. What has stuck out to you so far in camp? Is there a particular player or a unit? What is kind of catching your eye so far at Giants practice?
Well, first of all, it's great to be on this platform again. Speaking of Rob, Donald as usual. We see enough of each other, but it's always great to talk to Donald. The first thing I want to start out with is I'm frustrated by two things before we even get to the players. A, I don't like that we can't videotape no more at training camp. The first day I went, they allowed people to do it, and I had a lot of clips on YouTube. I actually had a video on it. And then what was I going to say? Friday's scrimmage really showed me something, and it's not a good thing because it means more waiting time for us. This is a new offense. We know Wink's defense is going to blitz and all this stuff, and I know the rest of the league knows. With that being said, you can't stop 30,000 people from videotaping, so what do? They simplified it. There was no trick plays. There was not too much play action with Daniel Jones. They only left him in 2 drives. So, and Brian Dable actually just said in a presser that typically everyone's going to be playing on Thursday. So what I'm looking for at least is, if Saquon does play, I don't know if he will. I don't think he will, but, who knows? If he does play, I want to see a lot of the running game. And honestly, overall, I do want to see a lot of the running game this camp with the first team. If you're not going to give away the offense, at least on the passing half, just run the football and then, see what the backups do, of course. But, Daniel Jones has been a little shaky. The wide receivers have been on and off. The last few practices I've been at, they've been doing well. The DBs, at least the 2-3 starters that I've seen have been doing well. The backups, they're really battling. Darren Evans, the LSU undrafted free agent, has been battling. He's played well over the last few days. A couple of holding penalties here and there. So it's going to be an interesting camp. It's going to be an interesting camp. And overall for the offensive line, they've had their good moments. They've had their bad moments. But Jamil Douglas is terrible at center. Jonathan Feliciano, he's solid. What I really want to see is Josh Azudu at left guard and Shane Lemieux at center. But also at the same time, the offensive line depth is really getting down to the wire right now with Marcus McKeithen going down, Matt Garner retiring. So
yeah,
Giants may have to do what they did last year, and that's not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, what kind of impact do you think Garner being retiring will have on the offensive line depth? Because he was actually having a pretty good camp from what I saw in the practice that we went to.
Yeah, he could play guard and tackle, and a lot of guys can do that on this team. But he played for the Falcons for a few years, and it doesn't make Giant fans feel comfortable because you look at the 2 tackles. You got Thomas, you got Neal. Then you got Will Holden, who's, a vet. He's not even as good as Gano, in my opinion. Not as versatile. But then you have Holden, you have Azudu, who can play guard and tackle. But what happens if Azudu starts at left guard? You don't really have a backup tackle. So, once again, they may have to go to the waiver wire, like Devery Hamilton, who is the starting left tackle on the second team, or maybe even guard on the second team, is not going to he's not going to be the backup tackle. That guy from Nigeria they signed, he's not going to be the backup tackle. So I'm a little scared right now. I'm a little scared.
Yeah, because we have the injury to Matt Parrott so far. I think he's on the PUP list. Obviously, McKethan tearing his ACL on that damn turf is never a good thing. And another offensive lineman retiring in camp is certainly never a good thing for your depth. Do you think maybe, because we've heard some talk about them shopping Slayton around, maybe they try to move him and maybe like a late pick to try to get a depth lineman? Because I think we know generally where our starters are going to be, but that backup depth we've seen already in past years When the Giants have to go to the backups on the line, it gets worse. So we need the depth. So do you think maybe they shop Slayton and a pick to try to get another lineman in here just to get another body, or will they go simply to the waiver wire / free agency?
Both are very weird routes, but I will say this. At the practices I've been at, Slayton has, he's played with the ones, he's played with the twos, he's played with the threes. But Friday was kind of telling. He was mostly with the threes.
Ooh.
And let me say something. His body language, and I was sitting next to two friends of mine, also content creators. He was not happy with some of the throws he was getting. And, Davis Webb obviously not the most accurate. It was mostly on fade routes. That's where Darren Evans from LSU made some plays. But it's I feel bad for him a little bit because it's infringing on his opportunity to make the roster because that's how he showcases other than training camp itself. But at the same time, he has not been solid the last few years, dropping passes left and right. And I know, obviously, the Jason Garrett office, they wanted him to be the number one wide receiver before they signed Galladay, but he just hasn't been solid the last 2 years. And, I don't want anyone to make this like, oh, well, he's it's because of the Giant fans, stuff like that. No, it's not. He put up great production in his rookie year. The next 2 years, it was just meh. He's dropped a lot of passes and he's disappointed a lot of people.
That's a very good point. Donald, what do you well, you were at one of the practices as well with Alex. So was there anything that stuck out to you? So I'll ask you that same question. Anything?
Yeah, they're very, as Alex says, they're very strict with the recording. And they're very strict with photographs and things like that. And so a little bit ticky-tack with that kind of stuff. I think they can ease up a little bit. I mean, maybe the videos to an extent, but if you're allowed fans near the players, just allow them to take a picture. It's not a big deal, I don't think. But anyway, but that's part. Regarding the player issues, it was interesting. From the practice we went to, I thought Tyrod Taylor started very strong, but he struggled towards the end of the practice, and vice versa with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones's accuracy was off at the start, but then it got better as practice wore on, and he started making one or two decent plays. But that's kind of Daniel Jones. It's kind of a drive-to-drive basis with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones will look like Josh Allen, and then he'll do something really dumb. And that's kind of where we're at with Daniel Jones. And I've kind of been seeing that through the practice to this point. But I think in general, he's made some pretty big plays. How would you assess Daniel Jones to this point?
You're talking to me, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
He's been shaky. He's been on and off. And I did say, going on Donald's point, I did say to one friend on Friday who was sitting next to me, I said, if they give Daniel Jones more time, he will get better. And this is not Trey out defending. It's just what I've seen. He was on the Saturday practice to get back together, practice for the NFL. He got better at the end. And if they gave him more than 2 drives with the first team offense, he would have gotten better down the stretch. But also at the same time, they weren't playing with the real offense. You saw curls, you saw short routes. So even that's debatable. But just overall, my thoughts on Daniel Jones outside of camp. I mean, I know everybody's going to be calling for Tyrod's head, and you'll have – I'm in the middle with Daniel Jones. As sort of on a point where I think they'll draft a quarterback next year. But at the same time, I know people will be calling for Tyrod's head in like week 4, week 5. I do, but I don't understand the point for that, because unless he's seriously hindering the production and the development of guys like Kadarius Toney and Kenny Galladay and Wan'Dale Robinson, if he's hindering their production by a long shot, then you put in Tyrod Taylor. But I want to see progression, not totally, we have to win 9 games this season, because that's a move you make in a win now season. Once again, unless he's really, really bad, this is Jones' quote unquote year to prove it. Same thing with Saquon. if Saquon, it doesn't do good within the first few games, you're not benching him. So it's Jones' year to prove it. I know obviously people will be calling for his head at some point, and you know what? He will have his stupid throws, but just the not calling for Tyrod Taylor once again. I think the Giants fans have to be a little more down to earth with the expectations this year.
Well, they're two different quarterbacks. Tyrod Taylor is more, short ball accuracy, get it out quick, move it fast. Daniel Jones likes to take his time. He likes to get guys down the field, and he likes to air it out. And he's got the much better arm than Tyrod Taylor, but I think Tyrod Taylor's got slightly better accuracy, so especially in the short ball. I think he is, but. What I've noticed in practice is Jones tends to hold the ball a little bit too long still. That needs to get better because he's going to get sacked in proper practice. He's going to get sacked a lot if he continues to hold the ball a long time, which he does from time to time. He needs to get it out quicker. But I think that'll come. I think it'll come. I mean, remember, he's getting used to an entirely new offense. That will take time for any quarterback. I don't care who you are. You could be Aaron Rodgers. Once you're getting used to a new system, new coach, all these things will take time.
No, yeah, it's definitely true. I'm sorry. Daniel Jones, to me, obviously this is year 4. We know the chances of his rookie option getting picked up, him going back for a 5th year, very slim. I think best case scenario is you get rookie season Daniel Jones, because his last 2 years, he hasn't even matched the touchdown total that he had in his rookie season, but he's eclipsed the interception total and the turnovers, and the struggles have been there. And it's difficult, and I don't want to sound like I'm trying to defend him too much because I've seen the struggles. I've seen the glimpses of hope, but I've seen a lot of struggles. He's going to be in his 3rd system already, and he's only in his 4th year. It's difficult for a quarterback to go through who wasn't very good to begin with coming out of college. So I was never with the Daniel Jones pick, but my mindset has always been he's my quarterback until he isn't. So until they make that change, I'm going to root hard for Daniel Jones. Of course, he's my quarterback. I want to see him succeed. I want to see the team win with him under center. But I don't like fans that are like pointing the fingers like, I told you so, I told you so. And we're starting to see that where fans are kind of overreacting again with a certain offensive lineman, Evan Neal. They were doing the same thing with Andrew Thomas in his rookie year when he struggled out of the gate. And now we're seeing some fans for whatever reason, getting on Evan Neal. Is there anything that you've seen in camp and at the scrimmage that tells you he's going to struggle, or are people just overreacting?
Well, let me say this just overall before I get to the Evan Neal thing, and I want to point out a few things. Here's the thing with fans, and I don't think they're going to stay consistent on this one thing. Let's just say Daniel Jones throws a great touchdown to Kenny Galladay, or he throws a great touchdown to Kadarius Toney, or whoever in the first preseason game. The anti-Daniel Jones told you so crowd will be like, okay, well, that's just practice. But also as well, the interceptions, all that stuff, that was practice. So I think they need to stay consistent on that. I haven't really seen too much of people freaking out on Evan Neal. If they have, that's a little bit of a shame because, this guy was, in my opinion, the best tackle coming out of the draft, faced the best
100%.
competition in college. In camp, what I have seen is, he's gotten beat a couple of times. Kayvon Thibodeau has had his number from what I've seen. Sometimes, to be fair, I really don't pay attention to the O-linemen in the one-on-ones. And it's weird, though, as well, because I've been to one padded practice, and that was the scrimmage. The day before Saturday that I went, they decided to take an off day from pads, so I couldn't really see much. But with that being said, he's gotten beat by Kayvon a couple of times. He's gotten beat by O'Shane Zimenez a couple of times. He's had a nice camp. Not too much belief for him, at least in my opinion. But it's going to come. Rookie struggles are going to come. It's not – I bet Tristan Wirfs at the beginning of the season had rookie struggles. There's going to be a lot of these tackles are going to have struggles. And you know what? We're not looking at winning this year. We're not looking at, we're going to win 10 games this year. We're not. We just need to see progression down the stretch. I've loved what I've seen from Neal's run blocking, so that's why I said in the preseason, run the football a lot.
They're creating a big hole for Saquon Barkley from what I was seeing over the last day or two. That's really good sign.
Yeah. Real quickly, I also wanted to touch on Donald's point. It was kind of weird because I feel like it was vice versa with what you were talking about, Tyrod Taylor with the quick throws and Daniel Jones with the deep ball. I want to say they did the quite opposite on Friday. Tyrod was throwing the deep ball a little bit more open in terms of offense, and then Daniel Jones mostly like the Jason Garrett, type of quick throws and stuff like that. So
and how did – because Tyrod Taylor's never had a big arm, so how did he adjust to that?
He threw like one or two deep balls. I mean, he had some errant throws, but he looked all right. He did complete a good deep ball down the field. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw like the highlights or whatever, but it was one. So I think it was Colin Johnson who came down with it, and the defender tried to wrestle the ball out of his hands. So that was one of the plays. He had a nice deep ball. So it's going to be interesting to see how he is the rest of camp. And he has been, like Daniel Jones has, affected by the O-line play because Don Martindale has thrown a lot of different looks, a lot of different blitzes, and when me and I want to say it was when me and the Hub went the other day, or maybe been the Saturday practice, but I want to say it was when me and the Hub went the other day. He was just getting torched in the backfield, and the problem with the NFL, and it comes to a two-sided argument, is well, you don't want to hurt these guys in camp, but at the same time, it's not till they step on the field that they're going to know what actually getting hit feels like. And there were 3 straight plays on Tuesday's practice that there would have been sacks called in an NFL game. That's how bad the second team O-line played. And now I just lost my train of thought. But, yeah, just hasn't been good. And once again, the O-line worry is definitely there.
So through what you saw through practice, the candidates that are going to have to fight for the final 53-man roster spot, which ones do you think have really stood out to you as to having a really good chance of making it? Like, say, Sills, Colin Johnson, as you're mentioning, as the receivers, anyone, the defensive backs spot that you think has done themselves a world of good as to stand themselves in good stead to make the final roster?
Yeah, Darren Evans has looked decent throughout camp. Michael Jacquet, who's been another DB from the Eagles and the Jaguars, has been on and off. Wide receivers, Austin Prell's kind of looked good, but he also dropped the pass a few times. Keelan Doss has looked good as well. Alex Bachman at times. David Sills, I mean, he's right now, as I looked on Twitter, he's on the sideline, so he's probably dealing with an injury or something along the lines of that. And then Colin Johnson, it's a little weird with him because he's basically Kenny Galladay, just a little slimmer and a little faster. So It's going to be interesting to see if he does make the roster, if they want him to fit this offense or something like that. But he's had a good camp thus far. He's had a good camp this far. I can't really tell with the D lineman in terms of the offensive lineman. Ben Bredesen's looked better than most think. Second team center, a little bit of the first team center as well. Definitely better than Jamil Douglas. So I went over that. Tight ends, I mean, there's Jordan Akins has been quiet. Andre Miller from Maine, he's really impressed. He caught a touchdown from Daniel Jones.
Yeah, he looked pretty good, yeah.
At FanFest. Chris Myrick has been featured in the first team offense a little bit. He's looked decent. So a lot of also Austin Allen, I thought, has had a quiet few days, but he's also been productive at the same time. And I just don't know.
Austin Allen was one of the standouts in the practice that we went to.
Yes.
To get together.
Yes, that is correct. And I don't know where Ricky Seals-Jones is. It's like he's been in witness protection. We have heard nothing from him.
What is going on with that? That's so weird.
Yeah, I mean,
it seems like they're just using a lot of different looks, different players. I don't know, maybe if it's something that Kafka and Dable want to try with this offense, you just so people can't get a read on what they're trying to do. But it'll be very interesting to see what the first team offense looks like in the first preseason game, because I don't know how long we're going to see them. Might be for a drive or two, but I'm very interested to see who starts where on the line, because going into the season, we thought it was a lock. Feliciano's your center, Galinsky right guard, Neal's tackle with Thomas, and then it was really just left guard that was going to be that competition. But we're hearing a lot of good things about Lemieux, so it's going to be interesting to see where they go with that offensive line and then who makes the second team. I think Nick Gates' injury is certainly has had a big impact on how they build this offensive line as well, first and second team, because him going down last year has had pretty big ramifications on how we've orchestrated free agency and the picks with the offensive line. If he was healthy, I don't know if we even sign Feliciano or even maybe draft Azudu. And so it's very interesting what they're going to do with that line. I'm keeping my eye on that, because we know you protect the quarterback, and if you block for the running back, Saquon healthy should go off. And this season is very, very big for him. Do you think, depending on where the Giants are in the standings, by the time we get to the trading season, if Saquon's playing well and the Giants are kind of teetering on the side of not necessarily in it but not out, would they look to move Saquon Barkley?
They very well could. To be fair, that question, that thought has not come up in my head much because of how well he's playing, but it's something they could potentially look to do. I mean, if you asked me, if he gets 1,000 yards this year, maybe even 2,000, I'm just going to go say 1,000 right now. Would I sign him to a contract extension? I would not. His obviously his ACL year being out, he wasn't too productive. In his in the second year in the offense with Jason Garrett for 2021, and then 2019 he had the 3 games with the ankle injury, and he just crawled over 1,000 yards. So, I don't think they're going to re-sign him. If they do, it's a surprise, but I just don't think that's going to happen.
I can't see them having room in the cap to do it. Plus, address all the needs that they need to address next year. They're kind of in a no-win spot with Saquon. So Saquon just takes off, and has a very similar year to his rookie year. The Giants are in a bind. What did they do? If they re-sign him, then they probably don't have the cap room to do it. So they're probably going to lose him, and they don't want to lose him because he's easily their best offensive player. So they're in a really tough spot, and Gettleman's really put them in that no-win spot.
Well, here's the thing that kind of it's a weird situation a little bit. We have a ton of cap for next year. I want to say around $85 million, something along the lines. I don't have the exact figures in my head. Joe Schoen also talked about re-signing his own players. Now, obviously, that may not be for Saquon, but that could be extending Andrew Thomas early, extending, Azeez Ojulari early when it gets the time or whatever. I mean, I know he's been injured. Extending McKinney early. So, and that's something they did in Buffalo a lot, was like re-signing their own, not necessarily going too deep into free agency, signing these big guys. I mean, the biggest guy they signed, I think, in that period was Cole Beasley. But with that being said, it's going to be interesting to see what they do going forward and seeing how much progress they have this year so they know what to get next year.
Yeah, Saquon is such an interesting player to me because, we know what he is healthy. We know it, and we saw a glimpse of it, last year. He seemed like he was 100%. We were starting to see that burst, and now in camp, he's looking really good again. It's a good sign for the offense early on, because if the quarterback play is a little shaky at the start, which I think it will be, because again, it's a new offense and you got a quarterback fourth year, third system. It's going to be a learning process. He's going to have a lot of moving parts. They're going to be moving Tony and Wandale all over the place. So I think the running game is going to be very heavily leaned on early, and that's where Saquon can eat up a lot of yards in the early going until Jones finally gets a good feel for what they're going to do in the passing game. But I think it all depends on if they shock a lot of people and start winning games, you're not going to move him at all. You're not moving on from him. But if they're like 2 games under and the division's not necessarily out of reach, but you're like, we can get something for him. I think they at least have to explore it. Something that we were talking about in the offseason, way back with me and Donald, we were just discussing what would they do with him. And it's still such a big question mark because he's such an elite talent when he's out there, when he's healthy, and that other teams can probably use that. But you don't want to see him playing for another team because you just like, we could use him too. So I really want to see what Joe Shane does there when it comes to that time of the season, if they try to move him or not. But I want to talk defense because the edge rush, the pass rush.
I don't see him being cut or traded at any point. Certainly not cut, but traded at any point because we don't have a backup to him. Breda is not going to be our number one running back, plus his injury history too. So, and we didn't draft a running back. If we drafted someone like, say, a Zamir White or something like that, or Cook from Georgia, any of those guys, then you would say, okay, well, maybe they just take off. But there's not really a ready-made replacement for Saquon Barkley. So I think there's even a chance that they might even look to re-sign him, because unless there's a really great talent coming up in the draft in the later rounds, in the middle later rounds, because I assume we'll be looking at quarterback in the first round, but who knows? But yeah, sorry, Alex.
Before we go to defense, I want to ask you guys a question. There's been a video that's been floating around on Twitter of Daniel Jones trying to throw a curl to Kenny Galladay. Have you guys seen that video? What are your thoughts? Do you think it was on Galladay? Do you think Jones was just thrown away? Do you think it was off target? If you've seen it, of course.
Yeah, I saw it. Rob, did you see it?
I actually have not seen it. The video that's been popping up the most for me is Neal just shoving that defender all the way to the end zone for Barkley's touchdown. So I have not seen that curl route video though. So
it was a bad route, but it was also a really bad throw. Galladay looked like he kind of gave up on the route, or he might have tripped, or even to give Galladay the benefit of the doubt, he might have just tripped, but he was certainly slow in coming out of the curl route. But Jones's accuracy was way off. It wasn't a good throw either way. That's what I got out of it.
I mean, there's a lot of things that could be true. I don't think it was necessarily on target. He could be throwing it away as well. But in my opinion, if he throws it a little more, I just don't think it was a great route by Kenny Galladay. I was a little lazy there. It's not the first time I've seen that. Probably not the last. But if he throws it a little more on target, my thing with Galladay is I don't know how much he's going to get the ball. What if I think it was a Dory or maybe if Aaron Robinson there. If one of those guys undercut the route, that's a pick six. And then we're going to be saying, oh, Daniel Jones, all this stuff like that. So I could probably tell Rob is
yeah, I'm looking at it right now. That's Aaron Robinson in coverage. It's definitely underthrown, but it isn't the most clean route I've ever seen either. So I guess both things can be true there. Jones, it looks like he's trying to get it to that back arm there, but yeah, if that gets undercut in a regular game, that's going the other way.
Yeah.
So it's too risky. It was not a good throw.
It wasn't a good throw, but it wasn't a great route either. But it can be put in a much better spot. I guess you can kind of put it on both, maybe like 60-40 on the quarterback.
Eli was just perfect at pinpointing those back shoulder throws. Something Jones could really learn from.
He has been working with Eli. Eli's been at camp a few times. They've been talking, I've seen. So that's hopefully something he can get him going with, because that was Eli, like you said, that was his specialty. Those back shoulder throws, he was clean. I don't think there's a better quarterback I've seen play for the Giants, at least. Even Kerry Collins didn't do it. So Eli just had that on lock. It didn't matter who his receiver was. That back shoulder, he was getting it.
Boom. Mario Manningham, boom.
Yep. But let's talk defense here, though, because the pass rush has looked fun. They're everywhere. Wink Martindale's defense is already showing you what it's going to be. We knew it was going to be, but you're seeing Kayvon Thibodeau. He is flying around the defense. He's everywhere. Leonard Williams, he is flying around. The guys seem like they're having some fun out there, but we know it's going to really rely on the secondary. Aaron Robinson's been playing a lot, as we just saw when we were looking at the play there. He's playing on the outside. Darnay Holmes is having a pretty good camp as well. Even Cordell Flott's been getting some praise as well. Is is there reason to kind of be, I guess, worried or maybe a little bit cautious about the secondary, or should we have some hope that these guys are going to be a solid unit? Because I like our safeties, but I'm a little bit concerned about the cornerback play outside of Adoree Jackson.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt you have to be a little bit concerned. I think the top three guys have been the most consistent. Adoree's, there's been times where Adoree's gotten beat, like on 1-on-1 with Kadarius Toney, and maybe David Sills goes up over the top of Aaron Robinson. And here's a little hot take I'm gonna throw out there. I honestly think, my opinion, take away the turnovers that Darnay Holmes has, Aaron Robinson has had a better camp. I think I'm kind of worried. Now, this could be just a camp thing, and when they're in an actual defense, he does better. But from what I've seen in camp, like other than those turnovers, Richie James has bent him over backwards. He's spent, Austin Prail has done that. Alex Bachman has done that a little bit. So, yeah, we can come out and say, well, he hasn't given up a touchdown at the NFL level. That's very true. But when we're relying on more man coverage this year and just more dependence on the DBs, I'm going to say Aaron Robinson has slightly had a better camp. And we don't listen, we're not going to know officially like how they actually play until Thursday, because the first team will get reps out there. Now, to the extent of the quarter or whatever, I don't know. I don't also know what Matt Patricia, New England play caller, is going to throw out there. Because also as well, as much as it's funny, that's a first-time play caller as well. And also for the offensive side, just throw out there, I don't know who's going to be calling the plays for the Giants. It was Kafka on Friday. So also as well, just to once again throw another thing out there before heading back to defense, Giants fans have to be a little patient if that's going to be the case this season, because I know Jet fans, last year they wanted Mike LaFleur gone by like week 5. And they got better down the stretch. Their defense is very good. So I think Aaron Robinson, once again, maybe it's my bias because Aaron Robinson is just one of my favorite players. I think Aaron Robinson has slightly had a better camp than Darnay Holmes, if you take away those turnovers.
I think that Robinson's much better man coverage anyway. I think that's where he excels. So I think that's probably why. But I think the fact that Darnay Holmes has been managing to get turnovers and stuff, I think it'll work well in the slot. He's not good in man coverage. I never really thought that. He gets beat a lot, but I think he's going to be fine in the slot. And if he's already shown a proclivity of being really good at forcing turnovers, creating turnovers, whatever, that's a really good sign. It is a good sign. There's not too many problems with it. But Aaron Robinson needs to be playing on the outside anyway. I don't think Darnay Holmes should be playing on the outside.
Yeah, I don't think they'll put him in that position.
No.
I feel like he was actually perfect for what Patrick Graham was calling that zone. He was solid in the slot, but also he was good in the slot, but he seemed like more of a zone coverage kind of guy. So you're definitely going to find uses for him out there. But I really do think Flott is a guy that can come out there and surprise some people. They've put him out on the outside. So maybe they want to use him a little bit out there as well. Maybe we'll see some Julian Love at cornerback as well.
I was just about to talk about that because, like, the last 2 practices I was at, maybe the last one really is 3 safety looks with slot. Julian Love moving down in the slot a few times. Andrew Adams, Xavier McKinney, and they moved down slot. I keep mixing up Flott and Julian Love. I don't know why with the slot corner, but Love has moved down to the slot a little bit. I haven't been paying attention necessarily to his play, but I guess he's done well. Quiet camp, but something to look for. And that's out of camp, so we know, okay, this actually will be a thing this season compared to FanFest where they didn't show shit.
Donald, any thoughts there on
I'm excited by Julian Love for sure. I mean, he's capable of playing zone corner, and he's also been playing really decent safety. And I think he's going to be our safety. But that's a really good idea to have the 3 safety look, because Adams is no slouch. He's an absolutely fine rotational safety, whatever word you want to term you want to use it. He can come in and be useful on down-to-down basis, and I think that's something that's worth exploring for sure. Julian Love has made 1 or 2 very decent plays. Certainly the one in that camp where he returned that fumble and went like 60 yards. So it's pretty good.
Like 2 things I'm going to point out is this. It's weird. Dane Belton is not on the PUP list, which I just thought about a little bit, because I'm like, okay, they're going to say potentially week 4 return. That's what everybody's been saying. But then again, he's not on the PUP list, which you can really do. I mean, I think you would miss the first few games you go on PUP. So once again, that's just weird to me. But also as well, if Dane Belton doesn't start the season, and even now, who's going to be that 4th safety other than Dane Belton and Andrew Adams? I'm looking for one of these UDFAs to come in. Personally, me, I was a little pissed that they cut Jaron Williams. Maybe he had an injury or something like that, but I thought he did well last year. One of my favorite players. But I'm looking, there's 2 UDFAs that come to mind when you're talking about the safety position. There's Trent Thompson, there's Yusuf Corker. Corker's more of a box guy, even though he had a pick on Friday, which was technically off of deflection, which basically has been Julian Love's career. Interceptions off deflections. And then you have Trent Thompson, who can cover, who can cover tight ends, who can make a lot of plays, who can play special teams. So especially now with the Dane Belton injury, I'm looking for one of those guys to make the roster. Personally, I'm rooting for the best man, but I want Trent Thompson to make the roster more because he can cover.
I like Thompson too. I think they have to have at least one of them make it, because we know that McKinney is going to be that. He's going to be that play call. He's going to be the guy that's giving out all the audibles and the orders in the middle of the defense. So he could drop down into the box as well. And we don't know what Wink's going to throw at you. So having that extra safety until Belton is healthy, I think that's almost a guarantee that one of those 2 guys make it on the final roster there.
Agree. Apparently, I just read a tweet, and hopefully I don't take this out of context. The Giants were doing some 9-on-7s. What the hell does that mean?
9-on-7s. So with the defense on the 7s there, or is offense on 7s? Obviously, you're not going to put.
I want to say maybe the offense was one with the 7. So are they trying to put him at a disadvantage to get him to perform better?
Put him a little more pressure on Jones potentially. See how he faces more. That's possible. I've never heard of 9-on-7s. I don't know. Have you ever heard of that?
I like that idea. No, I've never heard of it, but I like that idea actually.
Yeah, I mean, if you have 9, you have your 7-on-7s, and then you have 2 safeties. So that's 9, and then what? Well, actually, no, that wouldn't necessarily work out. So yeah, never mind on that thought.
It's interesting though. Maybe you want to test out, really make Daniel Jones work. Well, one thing about what I've noticed, with Daniel Jones is he's got a really good chemistry with Wan'Dale Robinson so far.
Yes, Wan'Dale has looked I'm very excited to see what the offense looks like when him and Tony are both out there, because there was one practice very early on. I think it might have been in rookie camp. They had Robinson moving all over the place, and it was a pre-play snap, and he was just everywhere. And it was like the fact that we never have seen this before with we didn't see it with Tony really last year. Jason Garrett had that ability to move guys around but didn't really do it. I know Tony was hurt, but I really want to see what they can do with Tony and Robinson and Saquon all on the field at the same time.
They need to stay healthy.
Yes.
They need to stay healthy. I mean, it's going to be you're not going to progress through this offense without having them on the field. That's just not going to happen. And I think what will help is, some people will bitch and moan about, well, Saquon's playing in the preseason. Well, Kadarius and Wan'Dale playing in the preseason. I think that's better than what we saw last year. What we saw last year was they didn't play till week 3, and the offense stunk for the first few weeks. It was on and off. So, yeah, it's going to be better. And what I did notice, and I think why I'm so frustrated with the fact that they're not showing the offense is 2 things. This is a new offense, so they don't want to show anything. B, the last 2 years, really last year because of the COVID season 20, last year they showed the offense because it was basic curl routes and all that. Everybody knew what to expect, and it was a second year in the regime. So that's why but hopefully this offense comes to fruition.
What have you noticed scheme-wise for our viewers to look out for who obviously haven't been at practice? What can they expect for this new offense?
Some play-action bootlegs, that's what I like to see. Not too many fade routes to the end zone. That's going to probably be only used for Sills if he makes the roster or Galladay. You will see Tony go down the field. A lot of good routes, quick ones over the middle with Wandale and Kadarius Toney. Richie James will be factored in as well. They did one play on Tuesday. It was a wildcat with Kadarius Toney and Wandale Robinson, both in the backfield, I want to say.
Ooh, I like that.
So creativity is there, and a lot of people are assuming it has more of a Kansas City influence than a Buffalo influence, and I could actually see it. But
with Kafka, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, with him, if he's going to be the play caller, and I know Dable was, had the headset on and everything, but if he's going to be the one calling the plays, I mean, we obviously know where the influence is coming from.
Yeah, because then my next question would have been, do you think there'll be opportunities for Wandale Robinson or Tony to be used in the backfield for a couple of snaps? Yeah, like they've done it with Deebo Samuel. The 49ers do it with Deebo Samuel all the time. So I was just wondering if any of them have the skill set.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, they're not the player. We all know that. But I talked last year about Kadarius Toney. He could be that Deebo Samuel. And that was never put to that position. Was used like once or twice in the backfield, once as a decoy, once on an end around. So I think they could fit the mold of Tyreek Hill and Mecole Hardman or Tyreek Hill and Byron Pringle type of thing. But it's going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting once this offense, in my opinion, finally progresses. It's just whether the quarterback position is going to do that and whether the offensive line is going to gel.
What do you think, Rob?
I would like to see Tony take that. If we're going to have anybody in a Deebo Samuel type role, I think Tony is that guy. His ability to get around defenders, and we saw it last year, that he is so difficult to bring down that if you give him a swing route out of the backfield or anything, it's going to be difficult for you to get him in the backfield behind the line of scrimmage, or even if it's 2 or 3 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, he's going to find a way to shed some tackles and get some extra yards. And you can't really focus on him because if you have Wandale next to him, it could be one of those two that are doing it. Or if Saquon's back there as well, you got to keep your eye on him. There's so many different looks they can do, and having Tony as kind of that, dare I say, Swiss Army knife of guys that can just do so many different things because how fast and shifty he is. And then you have Wandale out there that is a little bit smaller, but he can do a lot of the same stuff. The options are endless for Kafka, and you can really set up so many different plays for these guys. And we can't forget Sterling Shepard. He's working his way back from injury as well. When he's out there, he's about as sure of a route as you're going to have on this team. So if you need a quick 5 or 6 yards, you just throw it towards Shep. He's not going to be getting looked at because of all these different moving pieces you got going on with Tony, Wandale, even Saquon. And then let's not forget Galladay on the outside. There's so many options. That's why I was really, really happy with the Wandale pick after looking more at the tape. And I'm thinking we're gonna be moving around a lot. And it's going to be given so many different looks, opportunities for different players. I'm very excited, but we have to see what it looks like in game. We can only go by practice right now, and we can't even really put too much stock from what we see from one preseason drive necessarily.
Yeah, I agree with that. And even if the quarterback position is not up to par, what you will see, in my opinion, because I've seen it in camp and I've also anticipated it, is holding penalties. This ain't a 1920s offense anymore. Will they hold Galladay? Not necessarily, but guys, you can't cover everybody. Wandale will be quick. Sterling Shepard, once he comes back, I think he will be quick. Kadarius Toney, of course, will be quick. So the fact that this is a speedier offense just helps the offense move downfield without even the quarterback throwing the football.
Right. The speed that they have. And you don't have to, we know Jones has that deep ball ability, but just a quick slant, quick out, and use their ability to run after the catch, get those yak yards. That's going to be a big staple, I think, on this offense. That Jones doesn't have to be a downfield quarterback necessarily, but he can be because we have those downfield receivers. Galladay is one of those go up and get it guys, and Toney has the speed to be, and so does Wandale. And we can't forget Bellinger when he's out there. I'm really hoping we see a lot more of him, but is he still dealing with that injury? I haven't really heard a lot.
He's been getting the ones in camp. He's been getting the full. I mean, I can't say full load because what they have been doing is unlike any other position. They've been rotating the tight ends. So you'll see Jordan Akins sometimes with the ones. Actually, not really. But you'll see Chris Myrick with the ones, Andre Miller with the ones, Austin Allen with the ones. If Ricky Seals-Jones came out of witness protection, you'd probably see him with the ones a little bit. So, that's been the one position that's it's going to be interesting to see what the first team offense looks like. But yeah, Daniel Bellinger has been getting 1 reps, and he's been coming back to form.
We saw a ton of pre-snap motion so far.
Yeah, that's
going to be one of the big differences in this offense than the Garrett offense.
Agreed.
The Garrett offense was Tecmo Bowl style. You have 4 plays, press down for a run, press up for a pass, and it was just simply try to throw it to someone who was open. And it's no surprise that it did not work out. So John Mara kind of had a point when he said we put Daniel Jones in the position to fail, but at the same time, you want to see a good quarterback take that next level or take that next step to the next level. Hopefully now with a more, I would say, modern offense, because we were running 60 style with Garrett out there. So with a more modernized offense, using speed and using pre-snap movement and just having all these different options, this is Daniel Jones' time to shine. If he does, then we know we can at least rely on him for another year and might not have to go the quarterback route. But if he fails with all this around him, then we know that the pick was in fact a bust, and Gettleman once again gave us reason to not like him.
So, Alex, what is your target for the season ahead? What do you want to see out of this coming year?
Well, I want to see progression out of the rookies, because it seems like we have cornerstone pieces set in place. That's something you can, I guess, compliment Gettleman for. Like, he drafted McKinney. He drafted Andrew Thomas. Donnie Holmes has been a solid pick. Same thing can be said with Julian Love. So there are some cornerstone pieces. But I think progression out of, the guys, first of all, I want to see progression out of Daniel Jones. That way we don't have to go the quarterback route. And, I've mentioned this to a couple of fans. If they don't select the quarterback, what about a corner? Because Adoree Jackson, if he doesn't play well or they don't see a long-term fit with him, he's gone. They have, I believe, the flexibility to cut him and save a couple $1 million on the cap. So that's one option they can go. But I want to see progression out of this rookie DB backfield. I want to see the rookie linebackers get some reps as well as the season goes on. And I don't know how much they like Tate Crowder, but Micah McFadden and Darian Beavers, I want them to get some reps as well. I really want to see what's going on. I really want to see progression in terms of blocking from these tight ends. It looks like, once again, the running game has been good in camp, but I want to know who's behind Bellinger. I want to know who's behind Bellinger, and I just want to see progress overall. If we get 5 wins, 6 wins, whatever, but I want to see progress down the stretch. Rough patches will happen, but We do have a little bit of a tough schedule down the stretch. At least be competitive. Be competitive. Give fans optimism. Kind of like we had with Joe Judge in the 2020 season, but just a little bit better and a little bit more organized.
I'm looking at our schedule and I'm trying to figure out how many wins we can end up with. And I keep coming around the number from like 7 to 9 even, because the division games are always up in the air to me. Because I think we can take Washington a couple of times. I think we can even take Dallas once or maybe even twice. I always say that there's such a flip of the coin when it comes to those division games, but we do have sort of a softer schedule in the start, and then it gets a little difficult there. I'm with you though. I want to see progression. I want to see a lot of these young guys take that next step. Thomas build off of his great year last year. I want to see Evan Neal.
Yeah, Thomas. I'm sorry to interrupt, but he's limping in practice right now.
If that's the case, do not play him Thursday. Keep him off the field. If he's hurt, then any expectation that we can have right now is going kaput, because he is so important. We saw how much better, and it wasn't a ton, but just how important he is to the line, because he was the only guy last year that was good. Everything else was just bad. So we need those two tackles. That's what's so important, is if Evan Neal becomes what we all think he's going to become, you have him and Thomas as your tackles for the foreseeable future. You're in a very good spot, and I think you can build the inside of the line. We already have, I think Izudu's going to be really good. And I like Glowinski a lot. So I think we have the foundation there. It's all about putting it together. But yes, progression from the young guys, from the coaches. Everything has to be progression. We can't see a good week and then fall flat on our face the next. Because we saw that in 2020. We won, 4 in a row, and then got blown out by the Cardinals and proceeded to lose a few in a row. So we can't see that progression state and then it just drops to regression, and you're like, well, there's the usual Giants. We need to see it week by week getting better. And even if we wind up with 6 or 7 wins, if we're competitive and we have reason to hope for the future, that's what a rebuild is, and that's the stage we're at right now, because I don't think anyone expects we're going to be a playoff team. The NFC East is so bad that anything could happen, but just show me progression, give me reason to keep putting my faith in this new front office, this new regime, so we can say that the Giants will be back very, very soon.
Now, let me ask you a question real quick. I'm sorry to cut off Donald, but if worse comes to worse and Andrew Thomas misses a few games, would you start the backup tackle at left tackle, whether it be Parrott or somebody else, or would you switch Neal over?
How far away is Pert from being able to?
I don't even know. That's the problem. And I want to say Gates has been doing more than he has, but also, once again, I can't say for sure, because Gates, as I pulled up Twitter, he was working on snapping the ball and blocking a little bit with the, inside the PUP rules, but I don't know. I've seen Pert more just walking around.
To answer your question, it's a double-edged sword with Neal, because you kind of just want him to focus on right tackle and master that. But then there's always that question of maybe that extra versatility will stand him in good stead, but it's completely different technique, obviously, from the left side to the right side. Probably in his rookie year, you probably just want to keep him focused on the right side. And maybe next year you could start throwing more things at him, but I think right now he needs to master the right tackle at the NFL level. That's where I'm at. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. He should stay at right tackle. Because even if Thomas misses, let's say 2 games, to put Neal at left tackle and then put him right back at right tackle, that's not going to help progression. We saw them do it with Matt Parrott, and he looked a lot better at left tackle than he did at right tackle.
That's true.
That rookie year. So I don't want to see them do that, especially with a guy that's so important like Neal. So if we have to go a couple of weeks without Thomas at left tackle and just pray that the backup is okay for 2 games, Evan Neal has to stay at right tackle.
I really like Pert in his rookie year, but he had a big drop-off after that. But I think Pert has potential to be a solid backup.
Yeah, I was about to say, if he's healthy, He's probably the third best offensive line. Well, can't say that. Third best tackle on the team if he's healthy.
Yeah. I keep focusing and go back to the original question. I'm focusing on around 7 wins. I think that there's a decent chance of getting 7 wins, but I also think that, Rob, you're onto something, man. I think that Dable is going to, and maybe Kafka, and certainly Wink's defense, the coaching staff we have is so good that they could mastermind a shock win that none of us are expecting. I can totally see that. I think it could easily be against Dallas. I think Dallas are overrated. I think we've got a better chance in our home stadium to take a game off Dallas. Maybe in a cold weather, might be able to force a couple turnovers. I think we can take one off Dallas. And I think we can get 7 or 8 wins. I don't think there's any reason why we couldn't. I think we've got enough talent to do so. But yeah, it's all about progression rather than wins. My final question, Alex, is what have you seen from Dable so far? Do you feel excited? Do you think that he's doing a really good job of running the camp, etc.? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I think he's done a solid job. He's being a friend, but he's also being you don't want to make him mad type of guy. So kind of like your favorite teacher or whatever. Which is really what we needed after the past few years, where McAdoo and Shermer were more lenient and Judge was pretty much an a-hole when it came to that stuff. Because I don't know if you guys read that thread of tweets from Dan Schneier, but he was talking about how Greg Cosell said that after Jones and players made one mistake, he would just go out cursing, and that's not really how an NFL coach works. That's more of a critic than a coach. Coaches are supposed to help. Even if the players are supposed to get the simple things correct. But from what I read today, they did do some running, and he's also said, they're doing some conditioning today. So it's not necessarily in terms of a bad punishment, but they got to get ready for game time. But overall, just at first glimpse, I've been refraining from saying too many things nice about the coaching staff, and I know they, obviously have some veterans on there. Obviously to avoid false hope and, getting reeled in again. But I think he's done a nice job. I think he's done a real nice job running this camp, and I want to see how he runs games. Obviously, we'll see some of that, in the first 3 weeks. And then, when it comes to clock management and all that stuff, we'll see that in the regular season, because hopefully in the long run, he can be better than the last 2 coaches with the clock. That was bad.
Yeah, clock management has been a very big, even the last few years of Coughlin, his clock management was dwindling. We have not really seen good clock management for a while. So I'm hoping that is such a key, because we've lost so many timeouts. We've lost so many precious seconds off the clock due to terrible clock management, especially over the last few years. So Dable's got a lot he's got a lot on his shoulders, obviously rookie head coach, but I think the general consensus amongst fans is that we're going to be patient with it, because we got what we wanted. We all wanted the new GM, we wanted the new coach, and we got what we wanted. And so now we got to be a little bit patient here. So there's probably going to be some growing pains, and there will be some growing pains. It's just what happens when you have a rookie coach and a new coordinator and all that. So it's going to take some time, but I think overall, from what I've seen, Dable has the respect of his players very early on. They seem to really like what he's preaching out there. He's not, he's not that Joe Judge. It's like, hey, you drop the pass, go run a lap. He's gonna, like you said, your favorite teacher, someone that you wanna learn under, but no, hey, I can't get this guy mad, because then he's gonna lay it on me. He's gonna make me do something that I don't want to do, or something like, you know what I mean? Like, not like necessarily like a punishment, but he's like, hey, that's a mistake. But he also going to tell you what you did wrong and how you can improve on it. So that's what a good coach will do, more than what Joe Judge is. Hey, you did this wrong, run. So I'm excited to see. Also, Dable's got some very good taste in music. So that's a good sign.
It's a little diverse, because I heard some country. Obviously, he was playing KT's music, a little rock. So they're throwing it around in a lot of different places.
That's good to build some camaraderie. You always hear what's the word culture. So if you want to build culture, get all the guys in there, whatever you like. We're going to play. I mean, I personally can't stand country music, but if there's somebody that likes it out there on the field, let them play it. Donald, anything else you want to talk about? Alex, anything else you want to bring up?
Donald?
Alex, final thoughts. What's your expectations for the rest of the camp and then preseason?
Battles for the back end, battles for starting tight end. I'm just excited to see that. And I talked about cornerstone pieces. It's going to be a lot of moving parts. Guys maybe we expect to get cut that stay on the roster, vice versa. Going to be interesting. A lot of depth pieces need to be filled out in terms of who's going to make, backup DBs, backup tight ends, stuff like that. But, just the potential to really have we're going to have one of the youngest, if not the youngest roster in the NFL. And, just progression through camp, even with these UDFAs, everyone basically progression. Like I know it's practice, but I want Jones to be a little bit less on the interceptions, more on the touchdowns at the end of camp. And I will actually be attending once again Tuesday, which is the camp practice before they go to New England. So could they be showing anything there? Could they have a rest day? Could they have a padded practice? I don't know. We'll see.
It'll definitely be fun to see what they do. And of course, we'll be keeping our eye out on that preseason game. Football is back, guys. It's been a long wait. So football is finally back. And that is going to wrap it up for us here at Nerding Out Sports. I want to thank Alex again for coming on. It's always great to talk. Man. It's been too long since we've gotten to talk some Giants football. And if you want to see more Alex, of course, you can go subscribe to his channel, Boys in the Big Apple Podcast, Big Blue in the Bronx, the channel name. That's in the description. And of course, if you want to hear him talk baseball with the other twin, Mr. Jets fan, Luca, the twin Bill on NYY News, they do an excellent job over there as well. And if you want to see more of me and Donald talking baseball, you can subscribe to the Pinstripe Chronicles. And, of course, subscribe to Nerding Out Sports. That's the channel we're on right now. Of course, like, subscribe, and do all that good stuff.
Please do.
And we'll be here for more Giants football soon as we'll be breaking down as much as we possibly can. But that is going to do it for us here. Thank you all for watching. Let's go,
Alex,
Giants.
we'd love to have you on at the end of preseason to get a final sum up of the preseason and maybe discuss the roster spots, etc. That'd be good fun.
I agree. I'm down for that.
Let's do it then. And that'll be it. Peace out. Let's go,
Peace
Giants.
out. Let's go Blue.